Hello, Mr. Jeremy.
Hey, hey.
How are you doing?
Oh, there we go. Now I'm in focus.
Ah, I can actually hear you too.
It's a little blurry. Yeah, I can hear myself too. That usually goes away.
Usually. Hey, look, Josh is online too. Look at that. I know. Hey, Josh.
Al's got fancy storage charts to share with us.
Oh, for the performance stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty, aren't they?
I always like that style. It works for me.
Yeah. We have a hard out tonight at about 11:20. We have another interview to kick off at. We got to do remote. Mm. And that's not a focused shot. Oh, and I had to hook up the G remotes. Okay over there, Ryan?
He sounds good. And then some.
I mean, we had the issues before where we were doing the whole virtual soundboard thing where it would be off by a tenth of a second, but everything we've done for the past couple months has been pretty straightforward.
Yeah, the real shit nobody's talking. What are you doing on CNBC, AJ? The exploits are everywhere. You're an exploit. Everyone's an exploit.
You get an exploit, and you get an exploit.
Wait a minute. I think we just invented it.
That's it. I'm going back to MIPS.
Right. Safety first.
I'm going back to the Commodore 64.
That C128 was on Craigslist.
See?
Good upgrade.
There you go. That's an upgrade.
Why is this asking me to sign into my Google account? No. What the fuck happened? Put in my Google.
We're gonna need the mic.
CNBC is now following me on Twitter. Put in my LastPass password in order to get my actual password. Email. What is the point of Face ID that it just cleared? To put in my password. LastPass. It does. It literally came up and said Face ID, and I made sure that bing, and then it.
Did it went bang?
It went bang. It probably just was hacked. We have people on the call already?
We do.
Nope. Maybe.
Ah, okay. Oh, I know why. Because it had opened up Edge,
Oh,
not Chrome.
isn't it brave?
Mm-hmm.
482. Let's see, link. Can you see my computer, by the way?
Nope.
Oh, that's because I don't have the software open. Is that important?
Kind of. We don't have any articles about Via's new chip.
Is the site set live?
Yes.
Is Broforce still on that sale?
It was 2 hours ago when I checked it.
2 hours ago. That's like forever.
Mhm.
I've been wanting to get that game.
It's quite fun.
Can you mute my computer? Or somebody's computer just binged.
Mine's muted.
I'll check mine. I think that's it.
Oh crap! I'd forgotten I bought it.
You already bought it?
It must have been on sale some other time.
It's a New Year's miracle.
I picked it up.
Steam sale reaction.
Yeah. Fuck.
I
I already got it. Damn.
I've already spent money on this.
Hello, hello, everybody.
No.
Are we live yet?
We are.
Oh, damn.
Complete your collection.
Maybe I don't want to. All right, function F11.
What is the XSplit streamer pack?
Doesn't matter.
I think it's for that game or something.
Oh yeah, I might have to check your mic there, Ken.
Can't check your mic.
Well, you're sitting like 2
It
feet
is a
back.
microphone.
Oh, there we go.
I've checked it. Checked it
Ooh.
once, checked it twice. It is a microphone.
Yep, sounds good to me.
They want a higher resolution headshot.
Tell them you've only got so
Nice.
many pixels.
They sent me an example. Just use that one.
That's a great example. Use that.
Great picture.
Sorry
Let's
to
go
hold
with that one.
everybody up, but I don't know what to do about that.
Well, we need to get a picture of you in front of the green screen pointing at something. Obviously.
Hang on a second. Let me see. Where would I no photos? No.
Just Googling Ryan Trout.
No, I'm looking on the Dropbox.
Get the stylized one that's the cover of Twitch.
Yeah, there you go.
Just make that it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not high resolution either.
No, it's vector graphics, man. You make it whatever resolution
It might
you
have
want.
been vector graphics at one point. It is most certainly not vector graphics in the
not
way
anymore.
that I have it.
Saying I'm a little hot. You know what I mean?
What was I gonna do? Oh yeah.
That sucks. I've only ever had to have headshots for like Twitter, which doesn't care.
Headshot.
Oh, hey, look. I found the full res. Well, no.
Did you find one?
Can you not just do it with one in the studio there?
Yeah.
Zoom in on its nostril and give us some really high pixels.
We might have to do that very, very quickly. Did you find one, Ken?
I sent it to you.
On.
Maybe I just hit reply instead of forward. I meant to forward. I hit reply.
Yeah.
What about Cardboard Shroud? Is he
You
still
think
around?
That's a good one.
No.
I think I look.
You just take that?
That's the one we
No.
took for Twit. I just take.
You're not
not
looking
wearing
at the
same
camera.
clothes.
Well, no. I mean, hang on.
He's got like.
Take off my.
I mean, what's wrong with that one?
I think it looks like I'm just staring off into I don't know.
I mean, they're. Are you gonna do video or only audio?
Well, this is in case the video doesn't work.
right. So if it's just a backup anyway.
Excuse me. Sorry, I couldn't
You know
hit
what I
my mute button
No,
in
I-
time.
Hold on.
That hurt.
I want to get this from. Site.
Maybe not as bad as jumping on a
Amazon.
bike without a seat, but it hurt.
That's not how you're supposed to powder.
He just. Ryan just powders with his hands.
Apparently.
That's not
This is
powdering.
It is, isn't it?
There you go. There you go. Make love to the camera. Inner kitten. Come on.
Rawr.
Okay, look at those and see which one is less shitty.
That one's on focus.
Oh my
that was
God.
on focus.
There you go. That was totally it.
Only the stupid ones are in focus.
All right, Ken. Maybe you can be a better photographer than I can be.
Damn it, where's Sebastian when you need him?
Make sure you don't get my BB-8. Yeah, I'm gonna do that again. I did look kind of pissed off in that. professional am I? Headshot. Use that to send in for my CES badge next year.
You didn't have to send one in this year?
I did, but I used the low res one that I use for Twitter.
You're Batman.
Yes. Okay, sorry. Google Alert. Let's see. All right, now you see my screen?
I believe I do.
All right.
There it is. Can you
And-
scrolly? Hey, you can
And
scrolly.
we need to get started, so we'll just get
It's not
started.
Really in focus.
Just put a degauss blur on it. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be gone.
All right, are we recording? We got to get started.
We are.
Degauss blur.
Yeah, degauss is the unblur. Shows just sharpen it, Ken.
Let's see.
Put it through the sharpen filter.
It's the button you used to hit on your Trinitron monitor.
Yep.
Bow.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
What do you mean used to?
All right, here we go. 3, 2. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 482, being recorded on January 3rd, 2017. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom and utterly horrified by the next person's dietary choices.
I'm Josh Walrath, and I'm drinking water.
I think he's talking about that cinnamon bun burger you had earlier today.
And that's
Oh,
Ken
oh, yeah.
Addison, and I'm Alan Malventano.
I didn't want to go too much into what the heck we were going to talk about for dietary restrictions or
I don't know.
dietary thing.
I was waiting for Josh
Cinnamon
to pass
bun
it on
burger,
to me,
man.
the same sentence, but whatever.
Dude, it was awesome. It was like a chili burger with fresh, made chili.
Yeah?
Great, good meat, and on a cinnamon bun. It's a really interesting mix of spicy, cinnamon, and sweet, and it was great.
Interesting.
Don't knock it. Let you
I'm
try
not.
it.
I didn't. I probably will.
Well, if I'm talking to Jeremy.
Oh, sure.
I'm not sure it's legal to
Yeah.
serve in Canada.
Fair.
All right.
Got some health laws up
We
here.
got to get into it because we got like a hard outs and
So let's talk about things. Welcome to the show. It is Wednesday night. We record every Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, pcper.com/live. If you need a little reminder, we have a subscription list that you can find at pcper.com/subscribe. It looks like this right here. We ask for your name and your email address. We'll send you a note when we're going to do a live stream. There you go. So you might want to sign up for that in particular because CES is coming up, and I have no idea if we're going to do live streams from CES this year. We haven't really talked about what we're bringing and what we're not and all that kind of crap, or what kind of internet connectivity we're going to have at the place we rented to stay. So it's important that you sign up for that mailing list now. Very important. And it's also important you go to our Patreon, patreon.com/PCPer. This is your place to regularly, recurring contribute to the website. It goes directly to the guys, goes directly to us, creating content, doing cool, sweet new videos like the PC Per mailbag that you see here. Oh, I see there's some, there's a little B-roll cut in there. I didn't know it was in there. This is just us on a weekly basis answering your questions for 20 minutes or so. It's usually me, but we've been Alan and Josh. Probably next week, Josh, you'll have to fill in since me and Alan and I will both
I think you should
be
do a
at
joint one in
CS.
Vegas.
We might be able to do that.
It's like passing out on the hotel couch.
What do you think about
Belligerently drunk.
CES?
No, I don't know.
It's the best.
Bottles piled up in the background. That's what
This sounded better and better all the time. So if you become a new patron, increase your patronage during the show, we will call you out in a positive manner, not call you out in a negative manner, I guess. So here we go. We've got Chris Ellington signed up as a new patron at 10 o'clock for $1, but then increased it to $3 at 10:08. So we've already got our first new patron and increased patron as well. So thank you guys very much for that. All right, so let's get into the stuff. We're going to run through some of these maybe less impactful ones, as it turns out. We didn't know we were going to have a big news story come through the world today, but we do. Scott posted a just picked up story, if you will, of 4 Google Wi-Fi. So apparently he desperately needed good coverage around his entire living space.
He was not kidding.
No. So he was complaining about wireless dead zones with his previous setup, which you can see part of it there in the background. So he bought it looks like it's a Google Wi-Fi comes in a 3-pack, and then he bought an extra one. I guess that's how it works. He bought a single to add into that. Yeah. So plus the Cisco 8-port gigabit switch.
Is this
So,
place really that big?
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't have to be. I mean, it's coverage size is one of them, but it's also
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah. Well,
are you in an L-shaped
he lives in
building?
Kingston.
Yeah.
So there's a good chance that those are a shitload of limestone on the
yeah.
exterior and interior walls that are 6-8 inches thick and not plasterboard.
Yeah.
Got it. So if you can see, he walks through some of the setup here, and he does talk about the that it worked well. Right now, as he walks around his house, he sees Wi-Fi drop for an instant. Seems like literally a second, and reconnect as it chooses a new access point. He points out that it could be annoying if you're on a Skype chat and walking from room to room. But I thought that was.
I think
that was supposed to prevent that. It may just be the notifications he's seeing
Yeah.
show that dropping back.
It should be seamless as far as the
Yeah,
device.
that's kind of the whole point, right?
Yeah.
Of the mesh infrastructure.
Yeah.
So, not a cheap solution. And I know that Jim has a review. Jim, we did a review of the Google Wi-Fi stuff, right? Yeah. So if you want to check that out, you can do that. It is on the website as well. Also today, Maury posted a review of the MSI Z370 Gaming Pro Carbon. Z370, this is your Coffee Lake platform for your what is it? What am I missing here? Quad core? No, up to 6 core.
Up to 6 core.
Up to 6 core processors.
8700K.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
LEDs, of course.
And supposedly only will be good for this generation, and then next generation of CPUs you're going to have
Mhm.
like 470 or whatever the hell.
No, I think
comes
there's
up.
supposed to be like a Z390
Yeah.
coming out as
Okay.
well or something. And
Yep.
then maybe these processors are backwards or forwards compatible with that.
Mm.
You would
I would hope.
You would hope so.
I would hope.
I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
It's a $209 motherboard, so it's reasonably priced, right? It's not, it's not a $140 board, but it's also not a $440
Sure.
motherboard to look at.
It looks nice.
Yeah, it's got the LEDs, of course. It's got, Lightning USB 3.1 Gen 2, which is not Lightning. It is just USB 3.1 Gen 2. So, do you know what the Lightning indicates in this case, Ken? Is it just
Just
branding?
MSI branding.
Okay. M.2 shield on it. High quality components, personalized with RGB LEDs. It looks like they've got you can change between. Ooh, you want flashing LEDs? Do you want double flashing LEDs? Which I don't really quite understand what that is.
Is there an off button?
Yeah. Well,
Good.
I don't know that. Also, MSI now supports 3D printable add-on parts.
Weird.
Yeah, it's odd how these things happen, right? How these kind of trends cycle through things. But it is what it is. Obviously, a good review here by Maury in terms of taking a look at the board and the feature set and the performance and the overclocking capability. Little things like the CPU power connector, the 8-pin power connector, looks a little crowded in that particular position.
Or is that like you can't get to the? Oh no, it's on. the
No,
other end.
like the
Okay.
pins on that side, so it's not as bad. Actually, I was working on a motherboard recently that had it the other way around.
Yeah.
Right, and it was like
Oh.
there's like a cut in my fingernail from having to dig
You just
down
can't-
behind the heat sink on the MOSFETs in order to pull out
Yeah.
the 8-pin plug.
Those tabs usually don't stay attached when I deal with them.
That's one way to solve it.
Just rips the whole socket off the board.
True. That decreases their usage in the future
That's true.
for stability's sake, but I understand the mentality there. So obviously going through Maury's general and continued deep dive into boards, he was able to get a 5 gigahertz CPU, 4,000 megahertz, otherwise known as 4 gigahertz memory speed in terms of overclocking
On what, 8700?
on the 8700K. Yep. And it did get a silver award. Weaknesses: lack of RGB LED configuration via UAFI, CMOS battery replacement, of course.
Uh-huh.
Lack of hinged cover plate heatsink for both M.2 slots, but it must have had it on one, but not the other. And then 2 of the 6 SATA ports set off to left side of board instead of being included in the port block. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Internal routing, I guess. But
Did you say pork block?
yeah,
No.
of course.
Because I could really get behind a motherboard with one of those.
I bet you could.
You turn it on
block,
and it instantly smells like bacon in your room.
RGB
I bet you
rotisserie.
could. I bet you could.
Yeah, yeah. Who's still mad that AMD decided to call their X370 the X370?
I think everybody should be.
Yeah,
I think
because
legitimately
I
that's a
looked at
problem.
Maury's thing and it's like, oh, cool, an AMD review.
Oh,
Not
wait,
really
no.
looking and paying
AMD
as
had the
much
name
attention as I
first,
should.
and Intel copied them, obviously.
Mhm.
X370 came out first.
Yeah, don't be a dum-dum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dummy.
Also today, worth noting, Jim has wrapped up the Ultimate Cord Cutting Guide with Part 3, titled Quirks, Savings, and Conclusions. I do not recommend putting your Shield controller in your bowl of popcorn, especially if you put butter on that popcorn. I made this mistake last night. If you might remember a couple weeks ago, we had the Death Star popcorn maker
Yes.
as one of our picks.
Yes.
We have that now.
Yes.
My daughter enjoys watching the popcorn be made inside the Death Star.
Okay.
So we were sitting down to watch Sleeping Beauty last night. We made some popcorn. We put some butter on it. We put some like white cheddar flavoring stuff on it. Dad overdid it on the flavoring. And so every time she reached her hand in, it came out this greasy mess. I was like, well, that's a disaster. Because then she wanted to like touch her toys and my phone and the controller
And
and
it gets everywhere.
remote. I was like, no. So I brought in a dish towel, and this is how we ate popcorn that way. But so don't do that picture insinuates you should do. In terms of kind of like the follow-ups to this, the biggest quirk that we came into was that the Plex for live TV was less than perfect, as Jim says. The setup process was easy enough, and it all seemed to work really well if you're doing it in kind of short bursts. But when you started to use it for extended periods, we found hitching in the streams that would kind of like pause for a second.
Yep.
And then it would all, start working again. What's more odd about it is that this did not happen in the recordings.
Right. It was only the live TV.
It was only in the live part that it happened. So like when you watched a recorded TV show, it did not have those hitches in it. So it tells us that it's not the HD home run, it's not the antenna, it's not the signal. It's
just the way Plex is
it's
handling
the way Plex is handling it in some regard, right? So
Yeah.
which is why we kind of ended up deciding to go with one of the streaming TV services like YouTube TV, right? So instead of just depending on the Plex antenna for all of our ABC, CBS, NBC, et cetera, for my personal use, like I was gonna have to get something like that anyway to get HGTV and CNN and all the stuff that you can't get OTA anyway. So it's not really adding anything.
They have HGTV on.
On like YouTube TV or DirecTV Now or those types of things.
Yeah, it might not be on YouTube TV yet. That's one of the ones that's missing.
Okay. Sure. I was just mentioning off other ones, other than the 4 or 8, 4 majors plus PBS and et cetera, et cetera. Jim also looked at the bandwidth concerns and how, before and after, jumped from about 202 gigs per month to 545 gigs per month of usage when converting over to something like that, which is a concern if you live in an area where you have to be worried about that. Here, we don't have caps. They do let you monitor it, which scares you a little bit in that they want you to be aware and cognizant of how much you're using. Luckily, our fiber here at the office doesn't monitor it at all, or they don't show us that they're monitoring it in order to scare us into using less bandwidth or anything like that. But, so, even if you are in one of the areas, I think the cap that exists in the US is 1 terabyte, right? Like that's kind of like the one
That's
that people
the
know.
Comcast cap,
Comcast.
which is the largest ISP.
And so you'd have to watch a lot of stuff to get to the 1 terabyte. But if you're also a gamer and you're downloading a lot of games every month, right, to maybe multiple systems in your house,
I mean, Doom's like what, almost a
80 gigs,
Yeah, 80 gigs.
something like that. You say you and your buddy want to download it, and or he shows up with his laptop and didn't have it yet, so he's downloading it again too. So now all of a sudden you're at 240 gigs.
There goes
320 gigs for 3 Doom installs, right?
There goes a third of your.
It's definitely a concern, but something to keep in mind. If you look at cost savings, Jim did a good job of adding in the price of the equipment, and then kind of taking into account like the monthly cost for just TV was over $110. The only thing you're paying for is YouTube TV and your like Plex Pass of $3 to $5 per month.
Yep.
So you're saving around $70 per month. You amortize that. You come up with 10 months or so to pay it off.
Well, cutting the cord
But-
is a bit of a misnomer there, as you're paying a streaming TV service.
Yeah.
It's still a hell of a lot cheaper.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's also fair to say, like, You also have a Shield TV Pro in this, right? And an 8 terabyte external hard drive. Like you have stuff that's useful for other ways, right? And now you're using Plex in a different way than you might have been using it before. And so you have significantly more capabilities than you had previously if you were just using an off-the-shelf Spectrum TV, solution or something like that.
Yep.
So that, you can't really you can't put some price on that. Oh man, Plex is so great. It's worth $20 a month to me. So I'm going to, apply that on top of it. I mean, I guess you can do whatever you want. So, so that's kind of the round out. Jim, the conclusion page, he talks about with YouTube TV, you're not getting all the channels or content that the old cable package offered when we were looking at that stuff. But if you're not watching 95% of that anyway, you're still saving $70 a month, which is a significant amount of money. And I I love the flexibility you get with something like YouTube TV, right? I have YouTube TV playing on my PC over there across the room, right? And so that's a capability that I didn't have with Cincinnati Bell Optics TV service, for example. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just that. I think it's a great set of stories here. Jim talks about looking forward to expect Plex Live TV to improve, get those bugs ironed out, something like that. When maybe that part of the story becomes more impactful in 2018.
Yep.
Hopefully earlier than later in 2018. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. For me, 2018 will be the quote year of cutting the cord. God, I hope so. It's been a long time coming. So check that out. So that's our Ultimate Cord Cutting Guide Part 3, Part 1 and 2, linked throughout the story and on the website. So, all right. Let's get into the big news of the week, of the day.
Oh my God, we're all gonna die.
Yeah, every computer you own is now vulnerable, and you probably all have horrible, horrible viruses on your machine, right? This is fair?
Yeah, everybody.
Personally handcrafted, even.
Exploits are everywhere.
It's kind of been an interesting timeline just over the last 24, 36 hours or so, as Jeremy, it was the Register story that kind of started it, right? Kind of broke the news that something big was coming, right?
Yeah.
They were talking about a huge security bug or flaw or vulnerability. Just so we're clear, the hardware companies don't want to call it a bug or a flaw, which we've discussed. It's kind of a fair.
I don't know. I
claim to
think
make.
fundamental design flaw is pretty accurate.
Yeah, I'm with Jeremy on this one.
Yeah, I mean,
think?
but I don't know.
I mean,
It's like someone figured out you could drive a car off a cliff. So that means that
right.
all cars are
or someone
flawed.
figured out that they
Like-
could watch you type in your password over your shoulder, and that's how they know your
and
password.
all passwords are now
Yes.
vulnerable. Like,
Well, technically they are.
yeah. But
But
it's like,
We had a reasonable
the initial
assumption that you
response
couldn't
to it
do
was
this.
a little bit overblown. Like,
Yeah.
yes, it's a fundamental flaw, but it's not one that you could see coming. It's actually one that we really like because we like the whole branch prediction thing, which is sort of where this comes from.
like performance improvements.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good thing, and at the same time, it's scary as hell because if they know what processor you're using, there are ways to get at it.
Yeah.
No, we should probably talk about what the problem is.
So
Yes.
Or get too
yeah,
far
that's
into
true.
the woods.
So all this was building up that there was some kind of security vulnerability in Intel processors, and that this security vulnerability went back 10 or more years, affected every processor that they had created in that time span, maybe longer. And
It
that
was back to the Pentium Pro, I believe, 586 and
I think
above.
the Pentium was the last one that didn't have speculative
it might
execution.
be. It might be Core.
Well,
Is
there
it-
was
is it
stuff well
Core
before
enough?
Core
Yeah.
that did, like Conroe
Oh.
and all that type of
Okay.
yeah. But and then the other part of the story was, so the first part was the security vulnerability part, but that Microsoft and Linux were working on patches for operating systems, but that the fix would affect performance.
Yep.
And the initial results we saw was like, this could be as much as a 30% hit on your performance, which is a non-significant number to think about. So, more reports came out. Then we saw links and discussions in Linux Usenet groups, essentially, right? Email listservs
Yeah.
talking about.
That's where they talk about all the kernel stuff.
You know, what was the link you saw was like a Python developer who had found some changes in some Linux patch notes that had been with the comments redacted, and they were kept looking through trying to figure out what was going on.
There was a Python blog where someone had actually found they saw the staged merge set, and it was very, very hush-hush. There was no README, there was nothing. And this was most related to code that was already accepted into mainline kernel. What is it, KPI or KIP, whatever they're called.
APIT, I think.
Yeah.
APT,
Yeah, it
I don't know,
was
something like that.
There used to be called something else before that. That's been around for a while. This has been a known issue where you have kernel data structures in the MMU being able to be seen from user space because you don't want to have to refetch those lookups. It's a massive performance improvement.
Yep.
But yeah, it kind of leaks a little bit.
So we were people were asking a bunch of questions. Nobody was really talking. Intel made no comment. Microsoft was making no comment. And then Intel released something around 3 o'clock today that said, yes, we are aware of security research that has revealed security vulnerabilities in not just our processors, but we've also been working with AMD and ARM and other software partners to arrange these fixes. So then it became a big deal of, is this not just an Intel thing? Is this a whole industry thing? And it turns out the answer is yes and no and probably. Because when the actual reports came out at 5 o'clock or so today, the answer is that there are 2 named vulnerabilities. There is Meltdown and there is Spectre.
Yep. And Spectre has a couple of things, but they're basically the same.
They're
kind of
under
thing.
the same umbrella,
same umbrella,
for our intents and purposes for talking about it. Spectre does affect Intel. It affects AMD. It affects ARM. It affects Qualcomm. It affects all those partners as well. As it is essentially a speculative execution. I'm still trying to figure out a good way to verbalize how to differentiate between the 2 vulnerabilities. The Spectre is a more general purpose speculative execution branching type attack.
Yeah.
Right.
Side channel attack.
Side channel attack. Yes.
So in other words, you have some other process is able to glean information, like process A is able to glean information about process B.
Okay.
Like what process B is doing, which usually
Definition of side channel.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like 2 separate, something off to the side, right? Like if you had and the reason you see the terms being thrown around like Amazon ECS, like they're having to do updates there because that's all virtualized infrastructure. You don't want to get a Amazon server instance and then you start figuring out what other people are doing.
Yeah, me and Ken get VMs on the same physical hardware at an EC2 server, and I can write code that will now figure out what his processes are doing.
Yeah, something about what his processes are doing.
Right.
Not necessarily all the information, but something.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so that's like
Which
a side
could
channel
then
attack.
just basically opens the door for other things to occur.
Yeah.
Right. So that one affects everybody, and it's kind of more of a general, hey, all of you people who thought you were ingenious by having branch predictors and things go find memory ahead of time in order to pre-process it so that you can have it ready when I need it, and maybe sometimes I don't need it.
Yeah.
This is a result of that thinking. The other one is Meltdown, which is only if it doesn't affect AMD, it affects all Intel processors and I think 2 ARM architectures, 2 out of the 11 that ARM has listed.
And it has more to do with like a specific optimization that Intel made for caching.
Right.
Related with caching.
Architecturally.
And also, yes, architecturally to try to optimize even better.
Right. To try to improve performance more.
Yeah.
They made changes to their architecture that are now being exploited through this vulnerability. And because almost all of the ARM architectures and all of the AMD architectures do not have this same type of thing happening, they are immune to this particular variant of the vulnerability.
And that's what makes it mostly Intel specific.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So even though despite Intel's statement about, hey, we're all in this together, the truth is more along the lines of we're all in this together, but Intel's a little bit more in it than everybody else, which I think is a very fair statement, right? And it is the general assertion we have from the industry is that the fix to Spectre is like variant 1 of these is easy. It's in software.
Yeah.
It's
Relatively small patches.
almost no performance hit.
Right.
The same thing with 2.
Uh-huh.
With variant 3, the problem is there's this unknown performance penalty. And so the internet's kind of the thing that our readers are particular, like we all care about security.
Variant 3 of Spectre or variant 3 meaning Meltdown?
Meltdown.
Okay.
So while we all definitely care about security and all that, blah, 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 blah. I think what a lot of our readers, viewers, listeners are more concerned about is like, hey, is Microsoft going to patch something in Windows 10 and it's going to slow down my processor by 30% all of a sudden?
And they did issue a patch.
They did issue that patch today.
There was Redstone
3.
Redstone 4 pre-release or whatever the fast track build.
Yeah, you could get that, and it apparently integrated it in there.
You could have upgraded to that, and you would have had that. And also today, as of just a couple hours ago, there was, I forget which knowledge base number it is, but basically it was the January 2018 roll-up update, which was supposed to come out a week from now. Say again?
For Windows 10.
For Windows 10, yes. Was supposed to come out a week from now, came out today. They pushed it up to today because all this other stuff came out today instead of in the middle of CES, which probably would have been not ideal time to launch all that when everybody that could test it
would have been perfect ideal because it would have been ignored by the majority of the media.
I guess,
for some period of time at the very least.
I mean, we've been playing around with it, like.
We haven't seen any big. So
I haven't seen.
We don't have anything published on
yet.
benchmarks.
Yeah.
I will say, like Phoronix has done a very good job of this. What was the other one? Computer Base did some testing where they showed, Phoronix obviously focused on Linux and things like FFmpeg or H.264 or gaming performance. There was no impact with their updated Linux kernels that included the fix. In some benchmarks like Postgres. Like a SQL benchmark. There was some stuff. There was a storage performance, like a file copy test,
which looked like to be one of the worst offenders.
Yeah, like 30%
DU was the worst.
What was it?
The directory usage calculator, DU, which is basically all syscalls.
Yeah.
And it does a lot of random I/O. That was the worst case scenario. I saw anywhere from 30 to 50%.
Yeah.
For most stuff, it's not. It adds like 20% overhead to a syscall. So what?
Okay. Well, what confuses me is my code is like regular API I/O stuff.
You're talking about the I/O load testing stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, like when we do storage testing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was seeing in some cases things were a little bit faster.
That's all in kernel mode, isn't it?
It's kernel API calls.
Oh, okay.
It's regular I/O, disk
Yeah.
I/O, right?
Well,
it has to go through the kernel. It's you're accessing the disk.
Right.
I would say
I was looking for that really, crazy performance hit.
You're looking at Optane, which would be, in theory,
yeah, you would think Optane would be
the
like
most sensitive to it.
Yeah, and somebody asked on Twitter, and I even suggested Optane would probably be hit the worst on this because it's the lowest latency thing. So if something else is going to add some latency to every API call, Optane would be hit the worst. Optane actually works a little faster with the patch. I don't understand how or why.
Yeah,
but it does.
My general consensus would be that from a consumer workload standpoint, there will be almost no instances of impactful performance changes.
Yeah,
and none. Even the few benchmarks that we saw for Amazon Web Service for EC2, it doesn't look like that much of an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can sort of see it, but it's not going to affect much.
And the other thing is that based on what we've seen come out so far, if there was a thing that was super API call heavy, there's ways to optimize.
Yeah.
Like around that. Like, before you might have just had your code just super API call heavy for a particular thing. Okay, maybe that's not as efficient anymore because of these updates and, these patches. But, it looks like more of that 30 or 50% or whatever, the people that are saying that, it's really like extreme corner case stuff. Not like your computer just suddenly goes 30 or 50% slower. Just trying to, do regular stuff on your computer. Sure. It's just not there.
I think the bigger concern is the potential impact in those virtualized environments, heavy enterprise use cases, where both the performance impact is maybe more substantial, as well as the security impact,
Yes.
right? Because now you get into an issue where there are multiple clients running on the same hardware, and using some of these vulnerabilities, you might be able to get access to somebody else's data maliciously. And then from a performance standpoint, VMs are inherently more I/O intensive, right? Like kernel to user and back with the hypervisor.
Yeah, through the hypervisor. There's more layers of, it's not API, but there's more layers of,
There's more bookkeeping.
yeah. More things that you would want to be cached that patching this might interfere with.
Right.
Oh, they're gone.
Well,
I mean, any kind of kernel memory, mapping through the VM system is, when you go to user space, it's wiped. It's gone.
yeah, there was something about
when you come back on, there's a trampoline function which then remaps all those misses. So I mean, there's a lot of bookkeeping going on.
There was something about the Windows patch specifically that talked about how they were able to keep the user space just TLB or whatever it was.
Yeah.
They were able to keep it there.
Yeah, the user space TLB stays in place. It's the kernel space that gets removed on the Linux side.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because I know, Josh, I want to ask you something. So, like, the fix for Meltdown, which is the Intel-specific one, is kind of a known thing now. It's what we call the kernel page table isolation, right? It solves the issue, but there's a performance cost of 0 to 20 to 30%, depending on who you ask and what the workload happens to be.
And wasn't that a feature that was already, like, it was there in Intel CPUs, like able to be used, but just people weren't using it because they wanted to go the faster route or something?
I don't know the
something
answer
like
to
that?
that. I don't know the answer to that.
You're thinking of the
PCID.
No, this is the KPI infrastructure in Linux was in place 6 months ago.
Oh, okay.
But then they didn't accept it and put it into default because of the performance hit.
Got it.
Yeah, and now they have to.
Now they have to bring it in.
The Meltdown fix is kind of like a known thing. It affects Intel most specifically, but and there's the issue of performance. The Spectre one is one where people are making these claims of it's not likely to be fully fixed anytime soon. There's a TechCrunch story. It's actually really well written. That talks about the fact is that the practice that leads to this attack being possible is so hardwired into processors that the researchers couldn't find a way to totally avoid it.
Yeah.
You're essentially asking out of order architecture, all of the advancement in that, or not all, but a lot of the advancement in out of order architecture has been preemptively accessing data or processing data before you need it,
right?
So that there is zero latency when you actually ask for it.
Yes.
And it is that process that inherently is exploitable.
Yes,
because you are accessing information that the CPU is just guessing your code didn't actually ask for.
But to be able to do that, which potentially accelerates, and improves your what the heck's the term? Why is the CPU term going away from me?
Prediction? Branch prediction?
No. How?
Performance.
Execution.
Never mind. How efficient it is per clock or whatever.
Oh, IPC.
Yeah, IPC. Yep. So that's what makes your IPC go up. It's one of the, that's like one of the huge things that makes your IPC go up is that it's able to try to predict what's going to happen successfully, hopefully more times than not, right?
Sure.
And that's what effectively increases, your, how fast the processor is going, right?
Yeah.
Per clock. Anyway, so if you're doing that, there's always going to be the possibility of something else off to the side, hence the side channel thing, being able to tell, right? Another process on the system is going to be able to tell somehow that that something else was going on. Either it cached that extra information and then the other process says, hey, I want to do a lookup for that same location.
Right.
Oh, look, it happened almost instantly compared to it being a cache miss. Now I can guess that the other process probably was doing that same thing, right? So it's like, in order to get rid or to completely negate any kind of exploit, you would basically have to remove the whole thing, like the whole idea of it, right?
Yeah.
That's really the only way I could think of. Or go through extremely great pains to isolate everything, but then you would take a performance hit then too, just either from the isolation itself or the fact that now everything has to have its own section of a cache. Now you're dividing your cache up God knows how many different ways,
right?
Or you're swapping it out every time you do a context switcher or something like that. So, yeah, it's just you know, it's one of those things that you just have to kind of
Seems like
understand.
Yeah,
It would
Josh,
be
give me your
kinda-
thoughts on this before we move on.
it seems like it'd be kind of hard to use. I mean, as Alan was explaining, this kind of exploit, because you've got to know the stuff that you're looking for, where the CPU is actually writing and reading that stuff. So you need to know the address space and the address, the actual, kind of physical address and then the memory and the cache. And I'm real curious how they would be able to utilize that in a say, hey, I want to know what your password is on this thing.
Right.
And so I'm guessing Chrome is going to be using this address area, and I can look in through this speculative stuff, but it's not like, these are video streams that you're clicking into. I mean, it's a lot more complex.
There were security reporters out there talking about that this is something that could be exploited by JavaScript. This is something that could
it's
be
in the paper.
It's in
Yeah,
it's in the
paper.
document that I don't know if it was Spectre or Meltdown though.
Vector.
It was Spectre in there.
Yeah, it was Spectre.
So I mean, I don't know. The workarounds that I guess the issue is the workarounds that people can put in place today may not address future exploits on the same hardware, and definitely won't address future exploits on new hardware. Any changes that people make to their branch predictor, which happens every time there's a revision of an architecture, now need to go through more scrutiny and how do we address this from a security standpoint that maybe wasn't really thought of completely before. So,
And it's worth pointing out that like anything that exploits, this kind of an exploit, you have to be intimately familiar with exactly how the branch predictor works for a particular.
yes, correct.
Oh, they just curb stomped it. Did you see the implementation they had in the white paper?
What they do?
It basically just looks up 0 instructions and flushes the entire pipeline. It does all sorts of nasty stuff.
Sure. But you still need to know, I'm on this particular generation of Intel CPU. That branch predictor is going to work this way. And that's how you, otherwise you're kind of flying blind as far as.
Yep.
Yeah. In other words, there's a lot more, there's not like a generic one size fits all exploit thing.
Yeah.
You just like, boom, right? Now I get flush in the pipeline.
Right.
Which would make it much easier
Yeah.
to know what was in the cache.
They had to force the branch predictor into a corner case.
Yeah.
And then they went, okay, now it has a set timing, and now we can start probing.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense, actually. Yeah.
The
Well, the scary thing is, before we do zip on, is that there is another Intel story we were desperately waiting for this week. Remember the whole issue about below Ring 0 and the trusted execution platform and the management engine?
Yeah.
Those patches were supposed to be rolling out this week. I have seen nothing
Yeah, I
about
haven't
it,
heard
but
a
I've seen an
thing.
awful lot about this.
not important.
And that one's much scarier than this, because this one is, you've got unsigned code running that you can't even see.
right.
Yeah.
So don't forget,
That's
there's
fair.
more than just this we should be worried about
Yeah.
right now.
I'm sure we'll talk about this many more times going forward. I will say that this is not a doomsday scenario. It's not like I saw there were some tweets going around from like Wall Street Journal, New York Times guys talking about Intel's gonna have to do a full recall of every processor that's affected, and it's just not the case.
They deleted that
First of all,
tweet,
it's like
right?
not physically possible. One, and two, no, it's just not. It's not going to happen.
No.
If there was a legitimate 30% reduction in everybody's performance, like on every workload,
Then probably.
there would be a lot more things going on. Yes, right. Like Intel's, you would have seen Intel stock go down more than a couple 3%.
And that's the point. That's the point where you weigh: do I want to just be vulnerable to this particular thing or not?
Right.
Like it's if it's Amazon or something, sure, you need to patch this.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah.
But if
Right away.
if it's like your home PC, maybe not necessarily. Like the code needs to get on your box first.
Yep.
Before it can start trying to glean information about other threads and stuff.
Right.
All
right. We'll talk about this more forever, probably. So let's talk about the next little bit of information here, also surrounding Intel and the rumors of. So we know that Intel announced a partnership of a processor using Radeon graphics, but we don't know what architecture it is. But apparently there have been some leaks both from the Italian, was it Italian or Indian?
Indian.
Intel
Intel
website. And
But they listed the
HP.
chip and called it with Radeon RX Vega M graphics.
nice.
Whoops.
Apparently the Core i7-8809G just rolls
Yeah,
off the
say
tongue.
that 3 times fast.
The G stands for
Such a
gooder.
weird model.
Has a TDP of 100 watts, base clock of 3.1, Radeon RX Vega M GH graphics. Oof. And Intel's still has the HD 630, which I guess makes sense, right? Because it's still have we seen pictures of that officially?
I think we
I
knew
didn't.
it
We
was going to
did.
have integrated graphics.
Yeah, so it's like it's a chip and another chip on a substrate.
Yeah.
Right. So like
Mhm.
they didn't make a new Intel chip for this. It's the same Intel chip we know, or a new Intel chip.
and you
of the
still want
same
the lower
design.
power advantages to having
Yeah.
the Intel
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
graphics in a laptop.
That's true. That's true.
Well, you really want to design a brand new CPU just to rip your graphics core out?
Right. And we don't know if this is a multi-generational product, a single generational product, right? And so we don't really know how much Intel planned that they would do in order to make this happen. But is there any other stuff other than those kind of specs that we learned? There's really no performance or anything here, right? Jeremy, anybody?
No.
Okay.
No, there's nothing apart from it. Doesn't have any cores.
So now we know it's Vega.
No core
think-
clock, no memory.
I think,
bus.
Josh, in your story of the rumors, you've speculated would be Polaris.
I think so. Maybe.
Does this
No,
change
guess
anything
not.
for you? No, you did, but
Sure.
does it just
Yeah, I
change?
guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, what would it change from a product
Hard hitting
standpoint?
analysis.
Clearly, we could, if we assume it's Vega, like, does it change anything about the thoughts on the product, or is it just like, okay, it's going to use a different architecture, we have a better idea of where its perf is going to land?
Really, when you're looking at Vega, the biggest jump was it's a much more massive chip than Polaris. It's got HBM, and they've been able to clock it higher. Is there an IPC difference? Is there a
No, not that I've
massive
seen.
switch in architecture?
Yeah.
No, so I think you're probably getting, you're getting a little bit higher clock speed, but it's all still going to be under 100 watts. So,
Right.
how good is it going to be?
All right. I think we'll know probably in about a week.
But what about
You
the
don't
branch
say.
prediction? On
What
Vega?
about the branch prediction on this? Is your Vega architecture Kaby G fixing the vulnerabilities?
Is it susceptible to the?
Yes, forever, yes. All right, let's run through these other items relatively quickly. HardOCP, as they do, has posted another review of a water block
He really likes the water
for the
box. by the way.
Threadripper. This is the Coolance 400A-S. Jeremy, what stands out here?
Well, if you look at it
I'm looking.
physically, you realize that it only actually goes one way on a Threadripper. If you mount it horizontally, it's going to cover both of the cores properly. If you do it on a 45-degree angle, it's only going to get partial coverage of 2 of the cores. So make sure you put it in the right direction.
Sure.
Yeah.
That sounds like a
Yeah.
good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and other than that, the other thing that was interesting was that this prompted Kyle, once he stopped watching the podcast, because he was doing this last week,
Yep.
or 2 weeks ago, I guess it was, he built a flow meter. And so now he's doing a lot of the flow rates for all of the coolers and went
Thinks
back and
he's
did
fancy
the
now.
half dozen he's got already.
Sweet.
So we'll get liters per minute.
I haven't seen this
ratings
much
on all the
coverage of
ones.
water blocks in quite some time.
I know. It's been interesting.
Good for him.
And quite the bloody delta, too.
Oh, really?
Goes from the XSBC Raystorm, which is the best at 62 Celsius, up to the EK Evo Supremacy at 74.1.
That is quite the range.
so-
you are correct.
Yeah,
Huh.
this one sits right nicely in the middle.
Interesting. Good stuff. This was kind of interesting. At least Ken told me. Oh, wait. We're missing something on the rundown. Very quickly, Apple is going to replace your battery for $29 instead of $79.
They're going to give you the privilege of replacing your battery for only $29.
It's a pretty
Yeah.
good deal for $29.
And as much as that sounds amazing,
How much of a pain in the ass?
the
it
more
is.
amazing
Oh,
thing
yeah.
is it doesn't matter if your battery passes their tests or not, they'll still do it.
Yeah, that's a new policy.
So
Yes.
regardless of what your battery state is, they'll
So
do
they,
it for
they
29.
used to
instead of
like
79.
not do it.
They used to not do it all the time. They would
Yeah.
they would tell people no, like there wasn't necessarily a policy in place, but they're like if
Mm.
it passed a test, they'd tell you like they'd be like, you don't need to replace this battery.
I'd really like to know if
Computer
that
says
test,
no.
I'd really like to know if the test that they did would actually even detect if it was throttling, or if the battery just wasn't bad.
I mean, no,
Obviously,
it,
did
it
in
pulls,
the same
it
way
pulls
that
how degraded it is because Ryan went through this at the Genius Bar. It wasn't however many percent degraded within a year, so they didn't replace it.
Oh,
But they look at the degraded.
right. But
percentage.
my point is that percent degraded thing directly linked or not to
the current that it outputs,
the voltage
and,
drop,
and yeah,
etc. That just
I see.
causes
It
it to
is,
cut out.
but
That it's trying
in a
to avoid.
BMW emissions sort of way.
Yeah. I see.
I mean, it should be
like-
close enough because all those batteries are within a certain range with the ship them. So if you
It should
take
be
into
close.
percent,
I think
yeah,
I think they
like,
should
it's-
be able to know.
it's
or at
probably
least,
not an exact
get a good
thing,
guess,
but
yeah.
it should be close enough.
Before we move on to the next story, I will call out. We have some new patrons to sign up. That signed up here. Chronarch has edited their pledge from $8 to $9. Thank you, Chronarch.
I would go see them in concert.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds like a good metal band. Sir Bogative just pledged $33.
Awesome.
Wow.
Wow.
Kick ass. Sir Bogative. Is that a play on words I'm missing
I
or
don't know.
something? No? All right.
No,
Well, thank you, Mr. Sir Dr. Bogative. And then look at this one. HardOCP.com and HardForum.com just pledged $5.
Must be an imposter.
Sweet.
It seems legit because they're the icon he has is a skull with the Hard OCP logo on its head.
That's totally
so,
common.
I mean, on
Yeah.
its forehead.
Oh,
That
how
seems to
about
make
the Hard
sense.
CS? Has Hard CS donated to us yet?
I don't think so. Thank
That's too
you.
bad.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
right. Okay. Android.
So this Android parallel tasks in Chrome OS. I have no idea what this is. Ken, you said this was neat and worth adding to it. So what do you got?
Yeah, so it's a pretty simple change. A while ago, I know you did some digging and looked at Android apps running on Chrome OS.
Yeah.
And kind of the relative performance of that. But one of the big issues for sort of mainstream adoption is you could only have one Android app running at a time, and you couldn't run it in the background.
Okay.
So this is fixing that.
Oh.
So in the newest Chrome OS beta, apparently it's enabled.
What would it do? Just like pause the app?
No, it runs in the background.
I mean, before,
I think it would just
like suspend it or something.
yeah.
Because you could fast switch back to it, but
I don't know if you could. I think it like
did you really not have like Skype running in the background on a?
the Android stuff is still kind of a beta thing. Like running Android apps on Chrome OS is still a
Oh,
beta.
I think technically it's not beta, but it may feel like that sometimes.
I don't know. Last time we did it, you had to enable some hinky shit.
That was a while ago. But yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And you can see him here enabling developer mode and doing stuff
Yeah.
too. But
how many times did he have to tap on that?
it was like 300, but it's probably
Yeah.
he hit it 300 times. But I think the answer is 5.
The
Oh,
other
okay.
semi-related thing that we didn't have a news post on this week about this stuff is that Google released instructions for how to compile and run Fuchsia on actual hardware, either a specific Acer x86 Chromebook or Nook or their Chromebook Pixel or Pixelbook, the Pixelbook,
That's a thing, yes.
the new stupid one. And Fuchsia being their operating system that they're developing and is open source, but nobody really knows the exact use of, but is theorized to be like Andromeda was before they canceled that, kind of an Android Chrome OS
okay.
unification replacement sort of
Yeah.
thing. So you can run that on hardware now. It's interesting. Part of the process is like creating a USB boot key to network boot because you can only network boot. And they say it destroys the USB key. I was
Wait,
trying
what?
to figure out how the hell is that's possible. They say this destroys the USB
This
key.
kills
you can
the
never
USB key.
you can never undo this. I don't know how that's possible.
That seems fairly extreme. Now I kind of want to see it happen.
Yeah.
Well, I
though.
want to try it now.
Interesting. This is Jeremy wrote this up. This is Ars linked to an Ars Technica story where they have list of top 20 games of 2017. Now you say it's an eclectic list. I'm curious why you say it's eclectic if it's the top 20. I see a Mario there. I see a Cuphead there.
Eclectic means
I see
a bunch of
Sonic.
different, you know,
Yeah,
I wanna know
like
why
there's a
Cuphead-
Sonic there.
I
Maybe
want to
you
know why
should click to the
Cuphead is
list.
number 20.
Because
on
they
that
felt
list.
it was the 20th.
They thought it was
game.
the 20th best game. I mean, it's pretty clear why it would be number 20.
Cuphead is
I need
phenomenal.
to actually download.
I've
and,
never
like,
actually
buy
played it
Cuphead.
because I don't. I don't hate myself, and I don't want to play the same
Exactly.
thing over 50 times.
It's amazing.
I love watching people who are good play it. The music is great. The animation is fantastic. But no, thank you. Let's see. Static Institute of Retention. Never heard of it.
It's definitely an eclectic list. Just
Rhyme.
flipping through
Never
it.
heard of it. Night in the Woods. Okay, I have heard of that. This
Phone
is the
game.
Fox people.
Heat Signature, which I
Destiny
meaning to play.
2. Neo. I think I pronounced that correctly.
Sonic
Yeah.
Mania. Oh, on the
Higher.
Switch. Have you played Sonic Mania on your Switch?
I have not. Have you, Ken, played Sonic
I don't
Mania
like
yet?
Sonic.
No?
Resident Evil 7.
Good
I
man.
don't. I don't got to go fast as it
A
turns
lot
out.
of these are a lot of these are console games.
PUBG.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 7 is available on PC, up to number 8 on this list. That's pretty good. Yakuza 0. I don't know why I laughed at that. PUBG is 6. That's I mean, that's decent.
Super Mario Odyssey
Divinity
is number 1.
Original Sin 2. Really?
Damn good game.
Really? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, very good. Nier Automata, have no idea. I've heard many people talk about it. I have no idea what it actually is or what type of gameplay it is. Let me see this real fast. So it is on Windows. Okay, I thought it was a console only. Come on.
It's third-person action
So far, okay. there we
RPG, I
go.
think.
Got it. It's a follow-up. And number 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, Super Mario Odyssey.
Automata is a $60
Mario
game.
Odyssey is a good game.
Yes, like good games cost money. You can afford it. You're fine.
Yeah.
We didn't do a top
I
20
knew I
list
should
of
have
anything.
led with the cat simulator.
Yeah. There are a lot of other, if you want to look, my favorite collection of best of for gaming is at giantbomb.com. If you want to watch 40 hours of video deliberations of best game, best music, best story, best surprise, all that type of stuff, feel free to waste your time there.
Yeah. Or if you've
Sure.
only got 5 minutes, then Yahtzee just put his out today.
He's
Yes,
still around?
Probably
Oh, yeah.
significantly shorter,
I honestly
right?
haven't seen a Yahtzee video in 3 years at this point.
Well, now you
It
can
hasn't
fix
changed.
It. Now you can fix it.
He isn't any happier, and he's not talking any slower.
Well, you wouldn't want to.
I
I mean,
like
that's kind of the thing,
Yeah.
right? You know. All right. Let's see. Picks of the week. It's a short one this week, guys, but we got other stuff to get to. This was something Ken made me buy. These are display emulators for HDMI ports. And essentially, what this is, if you have a headless computer, but maybe it's dumb and it doesn't boot correctly into Windows if there's not a display connected,
Yeah.
right? This is more of a display driver issue, not like a Windows issue. Maybe you have a Vega card, for example, and you want it to be able to boot without display attached. You can attach this to the HDMI port, and it basically tricks the video card into thinking that there is a display connected.
And it can do up to 4K 60.
Yeah,
I don't understand-
Which is cool.
Like, do you care? I guess you could. You want it to. I guess you care.
Well, if you like VNCing into the box,
Yeah, you want it to be. So how do you configure it?
There's so
you configure your resolution in Windows.
Right, but so okay, so you have a monitor hooked up. You have this. It shows up to Windows as a display. You
Yeah.
set its resolution, and then you disconnect your other monitor.
Probably.
well, no, like you could just VNC in.
Or
if you were
remote
trying to
in.
do if you're trying to do this for
Oh,
VNC,
okay.
right? You
Or
VNC in.
RDP or stuff
Yeah.
like that, where sometimes the resolution's
Got it.
wonky.
So
it would
what,
help.
So like what would normally happen is like if you are once you exited the RDP or the VNC or whatever, the resolution might fall back to like 800 by 600 or something. And then when you go to sign back in, now your resolution is dropped again.
yes, that
Um,
sucks.
I get around this. I figured out a way to get around this without using the dongles actually at some point, and that's just
Cool, thanks for telling me.
Well, I
kidding.
didn't know you were gonna pick
It's
this.
just fine.
But if you use Ultra
What'd you do?
VNC,
Just shove a penny in it?
if you use Ultra VNC and you install their mirror driver,
Oh,
the
it
mirror
emulates
driver
a display.
emulates a display,
Got it.
so it just kind of works, and it works in software instead of hardware. But not everybody wants to use that
Sure.
specifically. So like,
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird process to install that stuff too. Like
It
you can't
is.
really find it anymore, and it's
Oh, that
so you can
driver.
find it. It's just like it's not supposed to be supported anymore. It works,
Oh,
but it's not
okay.
supposed to be
Got it.
supported. You know.
And let's just say maybe you're mining on some Vega cards, and they had some initialization processes problems, and you just needed to have a display plugged in.
Oh, is that why that happened?
Maybe
Apparently.
we haven't gotten them yet,
Maybe.
to be honest.
Mm.
They're still in the mail.
All right. Jeremy. Let's see. Do I have yours? Yeah. What do you got for me?
Well, we haven't talked about a 3D printer in quite a while.
True.
And there's a new one, a new model that Monoprice just came out with, which is their, it's the Select Mini 3D printer. And so it's the second version. It's $220, and it's decent.
Yeah.
You'll be able to print a lot of very good quality prints out of it, relatively small, but for the price, it's just really simple to set up, and it's not a huge investment. It does all the open filaments, so you're not stuck in with the ridiculous stuff. It uses Cura, which is a hugely popular 3D printing software, and there's a big community behind it. So, if you're just sort of thinking about it, at $220, it's not a huge investment. Give it a shot, play around, and see if you do want to drop $600, $1,200, $3,000.
Yeah. Monoprice generally has pretty good sales on printers fairly frequently, so you can watch out for those. I don't know how deep this one gets, but probably gets below 200. And also keep an eye out because the last two CESs, they've announced a lot of 3D printers, this being one of them last year. So I'm fairly confident they'll have some announcements coming because it's a large product segment for them.
Interesting.
And you'll be able to get this one for $140.
Yeah.
Josh, what do you got for me?
Yeah, this is really shocking. It's only $9, but it's a replacement battery for your old Samsung. You can do it yourself for $9.
That is
It's
an old
just as
Samsung.
good as the stock, and so I got this for my son because he's slowly destroying my old S3. But
Usually
hey,
they're better than the stock battery.
Look at that. Look at that.
I know.
Look at that.
Equal
Cheaper
quality.
price. Equal quality.
$8.99.
Cheaper
You
price.
can replace it yourself.
Price goes on the scale, huh?
Yeah.
I will not lie and tell you I do not miss the days of replaceable batteries on these phones.
Even though I never did it, it was still nice
I
to have
did
the
it,
option.
but I only did it in rare cases like CES or Computex, something like that, where I was out all the time. It was more convenient than carrying around a charger and a USB cable and having to have them connected in your pocket or your backpack or something.
Yeah.
But then you had to shut down your phone, swap it, and then reboot the phone, which is also a little bit of a hassle.
Yeah, but the best thing about it is I'm
It's a one-time.
recovering all those CPU cycles with the new battery.
True. True. Alan?
So back when I was a little kid and first got my Commodore 64 to play around with, I was trying to figure out how to code games for it at the time. I was really interested in technology, and I was like, man, how do I do this? And I'm looking around and figuring out how sprites work and this and that and the other thing. And there were just areas of coding for that platform that were just voodoo at the time, like that you just couldn't figure out because there was just no documentation anywhere.
Sure.
Right.
Just go to Stack Overflow.
Yeah, on my 300 baud modem that didn't come out until 5 years later, right?
Here's the couplers.
So there's this book which is called, where the heck is it? Retro Game Dev C64 edition. So it's just talking how to code gaming, like games for these retro platforms. And so there's information in this book that I just didn't even know was a thing on Commodore 64 for all these years. And
You just bought this book, and I showed you a Craigslist link to a C128 today for $50 locally, and you weren't interested.
because I would probably
What
do
the
it in
hell,
emulation. And somewhere in my house, I have a C64.
Yeah, but you can't find it. You
It's
can
not
just
true
go buy this
computing then.
Have
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, I mean, there were just these graphics modes that it was literally just like voodoo.
Right.
Like, you heard about them, you couldn't figure out how to get into them, how to like make the thing do that graphics mode, for example. Like, yeah. Anyway.
Hmm.
I thought it was cool. If you're into retro stuff, that might be a good read for you.
Alex, did you have one?
I did.
Did I click it or not? I must not have clicked it. Go ahead.
All right. Well, let's see here. I've been spending a lot of money on Steam lately, actually.
It happens. Happens to the best of us.
Amazing, imagine that. So I've actually been looking for something my wife and myself can play on my computer, and we found this. It's Broforce. This game's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. It is the most fun I have had in quite a long time.
Isn't this multiplayer? Like
It
we'll have
is.
to-
It's up to 4-person co-op, local and network.
Yep.
And everything just worked on Linux. It
Might
was
have to do-
amazing.
might have to do PC per plays
Oh yeah,
with
I
this or
would
something.
get everyone in on it because
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah, along those lines, in the past, I had recommended that Factorio game on Steam because even back then I said like these game devs are like amazing, like
Yeah.
they're doing all this rapid development.
Weren't
on
you
this
developing something for them?
Thing. Yeah, I did a mod,
Some sort of
which I had
power
to update
connector
for
or something?
So they came out over the holiday, like for the past couple of weeks. They came out with a major point release to the game in experimental build form, and released 12 updates through the holiday. These guys were bug fixing and patching, and like they're just insane.
Yeah.
I don't know what these guys are doing. Even in the comment threads for like the updates, they're like the community was like, "What are you guys doing?
Hate their
Like,
family.
you should be like go on vacation or something.
Hate your family. Develop a game. I mean, that's the
guess-
answer, right?
I guess so.
It's easy enough answer.
Hey,
Yeah,
priorities.
That's going to be it for us for this week, guys. Next week is CES. So me and Ken and Alan and Sebastian will be in Las Vegas.
He's gonna fly in,
assuming his registration goes through, I
he's gonna
guess.
fly in on his airplane made of case boxes,
Flapping his wings with cardboard.
flapping his wings. Yes, cardboard wings.
So the shows will all be different, right? We tend to do a show a night while we're there, but I can't make any promises again until we get there and we see what the setup is. Maybe something we record and post as opposed to be able to do live. But if you sign up to the mailing list, pcper.com/subscribe, I will let you know there. Or you can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Shrout, and I will let people know there as well. Those are kind of the two avenues you'll know exactly what we're doing in terms of podcasting and live stuff from the show air. Otherwise, just keep checking back at pcper.com. We'll have news posts. Actually, starting tonight, you'll see some product announcements from
Starting in an hour.
starting in an hour. Yeah, we'll have, what do we got?
Hooray.
Dell and Lenovo starting. Is that right, Jim? Yeah, Dell and Lenovo starting the barrage of stuff to your face. That's fine. Dell and Lenovo will announce they're merging as a company and creating one super laptop.
To rule them all.
It's not happening. That's it. We will see you guys in a couple of weeks for a normal one, I guess. And yeah, goodbye.
See ya.
Yay, you did it.
You did it.
I'm so
Yay!
happy I'm not
Did you do
going
it
to
last week, too?
Vegas.
I did it correctly last week, I think.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you did or not. I think I know it cut. I know it's not on the published version.
I think I did it great.
Yeah, because Josh went into like a monologue after it, and Ryan ruined it by talking in the middle of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
Ugh,
because I like to monologue.
Both that Commodore 128 and that TRS 80 are gone.
I'm sorry,
now.
Fever Striker
Oh, no.
pledged $5. Fever Striker.
Oh,
I
Fever
forgot
Striker.
Before the end. I'm sorry, Fever Striker. Thank you so much, Fever Striker. My favorite. Fever?
you know what I've
Favorite
been seeing on
striker.
Craigslist? I've been seeing things like
I'll be right back.
1070s and 1080s
Continue
yeah?
to talk for
like
approximately
locally.
4 minutes.
I've been seeing those locally for significantly less than retail, or eBay for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Just people selling them, just like looks like typical kind of used it for a couple months, upgraded, whatever, like just trying to get rid of the old one, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Just thought that was interesting. I didn't feel like lapping the city a couple of times, so chose to not bother trying to pick any of them up. But
Only used for mining until it recently plummeted, and now we're getting rid of them.
On the opposite, actually.
it's been going the other way.
Oh, it's coming up again, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, with this cold front we got going through, we'll take all the heat we can get.
Yep. I'm kind of contemplating hooking the attic up to my house.
Hooking the attic
Hooking
up
the
to your
garage,
house.
circulating the air from the garage attic to the
Okay,
space
that
of my
makes
house.
far more
You
sense.
haven't been doing that already?
No, but I should be. It's really hard with my house because it's a detached garage.
Oh,
It's technically right next to the house and it shares walls with it, but it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not.
Go buy a bunch of
trivial.
plastic and some tape.
Just get like a duck, just like running
Also,
along the
yep.
hallway.
Yeah, this pesky fire codes get in the way though.
Yeah.
They don't check.
What they don't know can't hurt them.
Well, when your insurance claim is denied after your house burns down, that's the problem.
Wow.
Whatever.
Cross that bridge when you get to it.
Indeed.
Yeah, but 1080 Ti's have been like creeping back up to like $10 a day, which is what the rate was during that insanity back in like what, June? That's what led to there being a GPU shortage in the first place. And it's
Yeah, it's not getting any better, as it
and-
turns out.
yeah, and it's headed that way again.
Yeah, I was looking. I mean, it's like getting a 6 gig 1060 is a $300+ affair.
Mm.
It's like, no.
Jeez.
No.
Yeah, and then
No.
and then the 1070 Ti's initially came out at close to MSRP and then jumped up like $50. So
It was too bad because that was the only thing that made sense about that card.
And there was, like-
the decent price.
there was like a Next Warehouse, which is where you can typically buy like more in bulk and like bulk pricing, like it's cheaper. Like if you're gonna buy more than 20, it's like
25 pounds at 1080s.
Well, yeah, but it's like if you're gonna buy 20 or more, it'd be like $10 cheaper per or something like that. I looked at their site today and kind of chuckled to myself because their scale is backwards. The more you want, the more expensive they are. Which
A
is,
bunch of retailers were doing that.
it's just kind of
Like
weird to
Best
see that for
Buy
like a
and,
warehouse kind of site.
Whatever that one you guys have down there is. If you buy 1 or 2, it's normal price. If you're buying 3 or more, they crank up the price.
A lot of times you just can't. A lot of times it's just a limit of whatever.
Yeah.
Limit 2 per customer, limit 3 per customer. That was a creepy eyeball.
Yeah, Micro Center, that's the one.
It was a really creepy eyeball.
Don't lick the camera. Please don't lick the camera.
I guess
He's
maybe
turning the
Can't
other
see
cheek.
eyeball. Can't see the that's
Nope,
the ear.
That's an ear.
It's an ear.
here.
It's a nose.
When they were asking for a
Wait,
high
I can
resolution
pick it.
picture, that was not what they wanted.
Yeah.
All right, we got 5 minutes to the next call.
9:20.
Yep. We got set up for a call.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Thank you.
See ya.
Good night.